Okay, are y'all doing good today? Everybody doing good? Yay! Olivia, show them your boots. Stand up and show them your boots. Now it's cold outside. You get to wear stuff like that. Isn't that cool? Cool boots. All right, here's the deal. We're going to talk about parades today. Y'all know there'll be some parades on Thanksgiving Day, right? Remember the parades from last year? Huh? Veterans Day parade, yeah. How about Christmas? They have parades too, right? Yeah, Scarlett, they have parades, don't they? We have a parade every day, every Sunday. Did y'all know that? When we parade in and we parade out, right? And you join us for the parade, don't you, Jack? Yeah, yeah. All right, this is a question. Do you remember the first time you marched in the parade with us? Do you remember, Carly? Do you remember the first time you marched out there with us at the end of the service? Do you? Do you remember, Kylie? No? Good. Your sister didn't remember either at the early service. That's okay. No, I don't expect you to remember. But you see it, and it's fun to see, isn't it? Now that the little kids, you've grown up, you don't do it anymore, but the other kids do it. It makes your heart feel good, doesn't it? Yeah. That's why we do it. I want you to feel loved. Do you feel loved when you come down there in the parade? When you come down there and Father Steve and Father Rick bless you? You do, don't you? You feel like somebody really cares about you. Good, good. There was a parade that preceded the story we read today. This is Christ the King Sunday. The last Sunday of the church year is always Christ the King Sunday. And this is the last Sunday of the church year, Livy, Peyton. The last Sunday of the church year. Do y'all know that? Next Sunday is Advent Sunday, and we're going to make Advent wreaths, right? You get to make them. And we are marching to Christmas. That's what Advent is about. It's like going to Christmas, right? So the little baby was born, Jesus. And then today, on Christ the King Sunday, the last Sunday of the year, we hear that Jesus is crucified. He's put on a cross to die. That's horrible, isn't it? And before that, there was a big parade, and everybody that was there at the parade was shouting, Jesus, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And then at this story we read today, there's none of them around, none of them shouting anymore. They forgot. Well, you know, someday life is going to take a turn for you that's not going to be as nice as it is right now. It is for everybody. Everybody has a moment when their life is dark, right? I want this message that you get from marching in the parade with us to be so inside of you, deeply inside of you, so you forget that first time. But if life ever gets dark, you remember there's a place where you can go and feel the love of Jesus, right? So that's good news, isn't it? Now, it's not Christmas yet, but I've got a stamp that says joy, 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 right? And you know that song? I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Down in my heart. Down in my heart. Come on. Y'all want a stamp, don't you? Oh. And what's the other verse? I got the love of Jesus down in my heart. Where? Carter, you got new glasses, don't you? Are those new? They look very nice. You're a handsome young man. You take out your mama. Oh, ho, ho. Casey, do you know that song? I got the love of Jesus down in my heart. Where? Where? Down in my heart, that's right. Where? Where, Scarlett? Down in my heart, right? I got the love of Jesus. Down in my heart. There. One more? Oh, you two girls, y'all want a stamp? All right, Peyton, who's named same as my granddaughter. It's your first Sunday, but you'll get lots of these stamps. And Livy, there you go. Look at that, joy, 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 joy. Thank you, Roy. This is a Christ the King Sunday, last Sunday of the church year. 50 years ago, y'all remember 50 years ago? You remember, huh? No, not yet, not yet. Well, some of us were.
The spring chicken, brother.
I know. 50 years ago, I was 13 years old. I guess that tells you how old I am. 13 years ago, when I was 13, I was a freshman in high school in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, 50 years ago, Birmingham, Alabama was a pretty rough place. A lot of things going on, bad things, people getting bombed, lots of protests. They had nuclear war possibilities. 50 years ago. When I entered school in September, right, it was the first year they integrated the schools in Birmingham. My high school was 3 stories tall. It was old and dark, and there were a lot of people there as big to me as Roy is to me now. And I was a scared little skinny kid. And there I was in high school, and the first day of school, there were people that showed up at our school with Confederate flags larger than any flag I'd ever seen before. And they were shouting from bullhorns, "Come out, come out, don't go to school with those," and you put the words in, right? We didn't worship with them. I went to the Church of Christ. We didn't let them in. Rabble-rousers. They weren't there for the right reason. I went back to my aunt's funeral and noticed there are a lot of black people there now. I'm real proud of that. They changed because they, at that time, were on the side of wrong. They were on the wrong side of the truth, the wrong side of love, the wrong side of that joy, 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 joy that they sing about at Vacation Bible School all the time. 50 years ago, then our president was shot. The world went crazy. 50 years ago. Today's Christ the King Sunday. You know, when those young black kids entered school, I tried to avoid them. I stayed away from them. I didn't do it because I didn't know about black people. My father was in the newspaper business and the popsicle business. I was around black people all the time. I played basketball down at the local park with other black kids. I did it because I was afraid of those other people, the people that were beating people up for no reason at all, threatening anyone that would talk to them. So I stayed there on the side. There were all those people that showed up with their Confederate flags and their bullhorns. What were they looking for? What were they looking for? What did they want to happen, right? I had 2 kids that sat right beside me a few years after that, entry into high school. They were in my trigonometry class. Now, I sat on the wall, and I would push myself as far over the wall as I could to do my work. I didn't do it because this young black man, Cedric, was right beside me. I didn't do it, so that I didn't touch him, That wasn't really the reason I did it. I just want to be left alone. I didn't want to be bothered. Keep your mouth shut, make it through, go to the next step, right? That's all I was looking for. Cedric seemed like a pretty nice guy. He dropped his pencil one day in class. I picked it up for him and handed it to him, and he said, "Thank you." Yeah, that's about the only interaction I had with him in 4 years of high school. There's another guy that sat in front of him, Ron Parr. I'll never forget him. He was a rock and roll star. And he had long hair before other people had long hair. So he was suspect too, and I steered clear of him as well. I knew who he was. Right before high school was over, he quit high school and joined the Vietnam War, and he went to Vietnam and got killed immediately. He went over there more than a week, and he was dead. And that was another thing going on 50 years ago that was troubling to a young man. a young, skinny kid. I went to the funeral. I can't tell you why I went to the funeral. I'll step down here occasionally. Somebody told me earlier, it works better when I do this. But I went to that funeral and saw that lifeless body. I've been to lots of funerals, so it wasn't unusual for me. But this was a guy that used to sit next to me in trigonometry class, and I never spoke to him. I could have, probably should have, but I didn't because I was afraid. You know the story that we read today, this is Christ the King Sunday. I know I told you that already, but I want to nail that in your mind. Before that happened, there was a parade, right? There was a long parade. Jesus coming into Jerusalem. Remember this? We do it on Palm Sunday. Hosanna in the highest, King of kings, Lord of lords, right? Big parade. Yay, Jesus. And then it comes to this moment in time, and it says the crowds were watching him, right? Did you read that? Did you hear that? The crowds were watching. What were they looking for? What were they looking for when they were watching these three men nailed to crosses up on the hill? They were all there for different reasons, weren't they? All of them. Same as here, you know. There were some people there, they were there because they had seen Jesus. They knew when that criminal said, this man is innocent, they resonated with that because they'd seen what he'd done. They knew he was innocent. King of kings, Lord of lords, hanging on a cross, bloodied, bruised, brutalized. Horrible, isn't it? Why are we reading this right before we go into Advent? All those people gawking. What were they looking for? You know that word gawking? That has a lot of connotations. You know, they said these things. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you think about it. But when we hear the word gawking, we can think of all sorts of ways in which people gawk, right? Like rubbernecking when somebody has a wreck, right? That's gawking, right? They were gawking at Jesus. Or they were mocking him, it says. Same deal, though. Mocking him. How do you mock someone? What were they looking for? Years ago, I sat there and kept my mouth shut. A lot of those people in the crowd must have seen things they didn't like. Don't you think they said, this stuff has got to stop? We can't do this anymore. I know I did. I know I felt that way 50 years ago. We can't keep acting like this toward one another. We got to do better than this, right? There he was, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, hanging on a cross. And he says, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And they didn't. They didn't. You know, we have a parade every Sunday. These kids come and be involved in it. I played golf the other day with Father Rick and two other priests, and one of them, assistant at Nativity, had substituted here one day, and he told a story about when he came to substitute and how all the kids started following him out at the end of the service. And he thought, man, they really like me, right? They must have really liked my children's sermon. And then one of the lay Eucharistic ministers said, oh, they do this every Sunday. Father Steve brings them down every Sunday. And he said something like, I just thought, he should have told me, you know, like he was mad about it. He laughed, but what he didn't realize was what a great gift he was being given. That's one of the best things about St. Matthew's. I'm going to tell you why I do it, too. I have them in this parade because I don't want them to forget. I'm not in church. I'm not here today as a Christian, and particularly as a priest, because of those wonderful sermons I heard growing up, where I heard a steady diet of hellfire and brimstone. I'm not here because of that little piece of cracker that I got at communion and the little grape juice I got in the little bitty cup. After I'd been baptized that same summer before my first year of high school. I'm not here because of Sunday school class where my uncle, the elder, would tell me that wearing shorts in public and swimming in the same swimming pool with a member of the opposite sex and dancing is is all going to take you straight to hell. And I knew I was going to do every one of those things. I'm here. I'm going to tell you why I'm here. I'm here because of the kindness of people older than me that loved me, that really loved me. There wasn't any pretense. It wasn't like they were doing it for any other reason except that this story we read today. Jesus is nailed to a cross, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings. Don't you imagine some people in the crowd in their mocking said, he's a loser. Don't you imagine? He's a loser. We're going to have a big parade next Saturday. Well, actually, there are probably people going down to Auburn right now. They're going to have their Thanksgiving meal down there because they won't be first in line, right? There was a story on the newscast about a man that had put a tent up at Best Buy. Did y'all see this? Put a tent up at Best Buy. And there were 2 tents behind him. This was like Monday, I think. And he wanted to be the first one in line when the doors opened up on Black Friday, right? He had a generator with a TV and a refrigerator in the tent, right? And he had shifts of people going in and out to make sure his place wasn't lost. Now, I'm watching this and I'm thinking, that's strange, right? And he looked a little strange, but then again, from my viewpoint here, all y'all look a little strange too, and I know y'all look at me thinking I look a little strange, right? And so I didn't judge him that way. I just kind of thought, well, this is strange behavior, you know. And then the TV anchor says this. This is the most amazing part of it. What's he looking for, right? What's he looking for? The latest Xbox, I guess, I don't know. All those people going down to Auburn, they're looking for something, right? They're going down there because they're looking for something. It's a pilgrimage, right? They want to win, right? Amen. They want to win. Every Sunday we have this parade, and there are kids down there, and I love those kids. I'm going to tell you, I love your kids. You got 4, so that reminds me of my children growing up. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember the first time you ever marched down there? You remember? It was fun, wasn't it? You felt blessed. You remember, Catherine? You remember? You don't remember. You will someday, because someday you're going to be up against a wall. Things are going to be bad, dark for you. They always are. Everybody has to go through those periods of life. I want you to remember how loved you were, and that there's always a place you can come back to where you can find that peace that passes understanding. But there were some people in the crowd that were going, he's a loser, right? Now, every Sunday when these kids get here, if you'll notice, there are some of them, they'll get right by the door, right? And they're like this. You used to do that, Alex. I've seen you. And they'll be there and they'll bolt out to the parish hall so they can be the first in line to get the goodies, right? And I've heard some of the people that do hospitality say, that's abhorrent. You know, they may not use those words, but that's the word I use. Abhorrent, right? These kids ought to have better behavior, manners than that, right? And then I've heard people in the pews say the same thing, you know. And I think, you know, it's human nature, right? They want to win. They want to win just like that guy sitting at Best Buy and the people that are going down to Auburn on this week, piling their SUVs in the parking lot because they've been winners all their lives, right? Winners. They wouldn't have those SUVs if they didn't. Winners. Don't you know there were somebody in the crowd saying, looking up at Jesus, say, what a loser, right? That's kind of what they were saying when they were mocking Jesus. What a loser. And we know what a loser is, don't you? Don't we? You know, second place, remember that? Dale Earnhardt said second place is just first loser, right? And Vince Lombardi said winning in what did he say? He said, yeah, it's the only thing. Winning in everything, it's the only thing, right? We're taught that from birth, right? Winning. He's a loser. I sure wish I'd have spoken to Cedric and Ron, gotten to know them. I didn't. But Jesus redeemed me. He made things better, just like the preacher said last week, you know. I moved beyond that. No going back. Ain't no going back. Ain't no going back. Don't you know Jesus on the cross, or some people saying this is abhorrent? Don't you think they were saying this is abhorrent? We can't keep doing this anymore. Let me tell you something. When you're feeling like that about those little kids in the door, this is what I want you to do. And you can do this. You can go to the bathroom and do this. Go look in the mirror, right? Because that's how it changes. You look at your own self and start saying, I got to make an improvement on my life. I got to change. I got to make a difference. You can't change those little children. They're just part of the world. That's the way it is. That's the world. I'm going to keep loving them. I don't care if they go in there and destroy the coffee hour. Because they've got to know there's hope. There's hope. There's people that are out there that really love them, right? So when you're thinking all these horrible thoughts about somebody else and the way they behave, think about all the times when you had a chance to speak up. When Ron and Cedric were sitting next to you and you didn't talk to them, right? Or somebody's whispering something around the church in a negative way about something, you know, and you don't say anything. And you even chime in and go, oh, yeah. Just like those mobs that were Hosanna in the highest, they were the same people, many of them, there at the cross saying nothing. It's abhorrent that we do that because every year we crucify the Lord again and again, right? That's why we read this story. And let me tell you, there's some good news here. I know you're waiting on it. Here's the good news. Jesus died on the cross for you. That's good news. And I'm going to tell you why it had to happen. It had to be so brutal, so horrible, that it would endail in your consciousness. That no matter what happens to you, no matter how far away you stray, no matter how much you chase after those things you're looking for that have no meaning at all, like the newest Xbox or the win for your favorite football game, all of that will pass away in time. All of it. And there'll come a day when you're going to remember the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, and how he died for you, and how he did it in a way that was incredibly brutal. But then he came back. And he's alive. And that's good news. I will be with you until the end of the age, he says. I'm never going to abandon you. I will come back no matter how many times you crucify me. No matter how many times you chase after the latest Xbox or turn your head on Cedric and Ron, I'll be there for you. I'm going to come back because this world has to be redeemed. There ain't no going back. Ain't no going back. What are you looking for? If you're looking for the good news of the kingdom of heaven, you're in the right place. Those with ears to hear, let them hear.